Welcome back to Tuesdays with Tim, the podcast that touches on all things related to brain injuries among children and those who've been impacted by my son Luke. Today's guest, I think, is qualifying in both of those things. Yasemin Flores, you are just a gem in my eyes. You are an amazing therapist. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me today.
So I got to meet Yaz, 2017, I
You
believe.
are correct.
Yes, we started coming to the Neurological Recovery Center in the fall of 2017. But let me back up first. And what is your title? And when did you become so interested in becoming a physical therapist?
Yes, so I'm a physical therapist assistant, which basically means that I work under the supervision of a physical therapist. My father was in and out of physical therapy just because of working hard jobs growing up. So that's kind of what sparked my interest. But then in high school, we had a program called HST, which is Health Science Technologies. And we were able to go to different medical professions and observe. And then our senior year, we were able to pick which one we kind of wanted to really stick with. So I observed all of them, decided, physical therapy was really what I was wanting. I was able to hang out or observe, help therapists. They do the school therapies, which was different. I had never seen that. And it was so cool because the school that they came to was actually right next door to my house growing up. And they would bus students from the school to this gym that they had made into just like a huge therapy gym.
Hmm.
And they had speech, PT, and OT. I believe it was all three there. And the kids would see all the therapists. I got to help out, be super hands on. And that is really what I was like, okay, physical therapy is for me, and pediatrics is for me. And that's really what got me going. I would never forget the PT that was working there. Her name was Gail. And I was so impressed, and I loved that experience, and it's stuck with me ever since.
Well, you just said the word impressed, and I've never been more impressed with a therapist who's worked with Luke than you. And we were
You.
there in 2017, and I've talked about this a lot, and that is that a therapist's knowledge and experience are vitally important, obviously, but to me more important, or at least as important, is the willingness to learn about your patient, to develop a relationship with both patient and parents. And nobody did that better than you. Your personality and your energy was contagious. And I really believe that Luke knew that when we were coming to Fort Worth to the Neurological Recovery Center, he was coming to see Yaz. And it was very special. And you will always have a special place in my heart. And the thing I'll always remember is whenever you use the words "my Lukey pie," and that was special. So, tell me if we can go back a little bit with Luke.
Yeah.
What you did with Luke, and some of the things that you saw Luke do.
I mean, Luke was amazing. Yes. He will forever hold a special place in my heart, and my husband knows that, my boys know that. I think everyone I know knows that. Um my sweet Lukey pie. But yes, I was a new grad. I had just graduated, and you all came to Neurological Recovery Center, and it was one of those things. I was actually nervous to treat Luke. And I think that kind of just shows about how much you care about your profession and, the quality of treatment, because it was the severity of his diagnosis. And just because they knew you all from before, because y'all had come prior to
Hmm.
me starting at NRC. And so it was just this thing of nerves of, okay, I hope I hope we vibe well, and I hope that the parents like me as a therapist and accept me as a therapist, because sometimes you're right, you may not mesh with a therapist, and that can really affect your treatments. Obviously, it's not the number one contender, but I think it could have an impact on the therapy session. And I appreciate you saying all those kind things about me, because do love Luke, and I love you all as a family. And
Mhm.
my main goal was, to do as much as I could to help him. And really, Luke was phenomenal. I mean, he did so many things with the how far he came with speaking. He would respond to our questions by moving his tongue. I remember all the moments on the Locomat, which is a robotic gait trainer, when Luke would be walking. There was always a whole crew of us around him singing,
Yes.
and asking him, if he was enjoying it, and just getting him to sing and have fun. Luke did a lot of great things with being able to gain head control for increased amounts of time, some intentional movements through arm and leg when it came to kicking a ball or holding a ball. And I think all of the therapists and techs and neurological recovery center always had a great time when Luke was there. Everyone was very involved and wanted to help, and I think he enjoyed that. It definitely made the session much more fun for him. Um, but those were my favorite memories of being on the Locomat and singing, and he would be engaged and awake and alert and watching us and responding. And oh, his favorite, the Sour Patch.
Yes.
Sour Patch Kids, and we would let him have a lick, and he would get excited, and he'd move his tongue super fast, letting us know that he was
Mm.
enjoying it.
Well,
Um,
I remember, just on the mat, and four or five of you were just right in there with Luke. And if he'd make a sound, or he'd move his tongue, or he'd move his tongue to the Sour Patch, it was special. And not only that, it was special for me to interact with you and others, because it was a challenging, I drove 4.5 hours every week for two
for sure.
years. And once I
Mhm.
got to Fort Worth, I felt so welcomed. And it was mainly because of you. And so I'm just so appreciative. And I know that Luke enjoyed it. I do. And that
Yeah.
Locomat was a very special, that was obviously a main reason that we would go to Fort Worth. And we're
Mhm.
so blessed that we were able to now partner with Covenant Hospital here in Lubbock, where we brought that machine to Lubbock. And to see
Yes, that's
Luke
good.
on that machine, and then now to see other families, it's beautiful to see. Obviously, you work with a lot of children like Luke with brain injuries. What are some of the things that you have seen based on your work, best case as far as improvement?
Um, yeah, so I would say I don't have we I do see a lot of brain injuries, but maybe not to the extent that you might think, or that we would see. I see more of the, I guess you could still consider them brain injuries per se, but not the same.
Hmm.
We do see a lot of change within therapy, especially when it comes to parents being consistent with bringing their children and then also following up at home. We can see wide changes in kiddos with, head control or being able to stand longer, um, making more intentional movements with hands or feet, and just it all comes down to being consistent. And I think really following your gut as a parent for what is right for your child, because I really do think that comes into play.
Mm.
And then listening to your child and really paying attention to their cues and what they're telling you of how their body is feeling and how they're doing for with therapy. And and like you said, finding a place that your kid does well. You want to find the therapist and the therapy clinic that your child is going to blossom in and really go past their limits. There's sometimes complacency with therapists who are maybe more afraid to push kiddos or try new things. And I really do think that there's that room to really just try, and you don't know the result, but you try and they do it and they do well, and you can keep going. And if they don't take to it, then you try something else. That's
Well, I,
just part of being a therapist.
Right. And I think you said it perfectly about consistency. Some parents,
Mhm.
obviously based on their insurance, are not maybe not able to come as often, but I
Yes.
felt like Luke made his biggest strides both here in Lubbock and also in Fort Worth, because we were consistent. I didn't want to miss a week. and I think that was so important. And but as you know, I remember also when Luke was on the Lokomat, and you knew that he loved the Saints. You knew that he loved Ed Sheeran, and you would sing to him
Mhm.
because he loved music. And I think
Yep,
that's so important for parents not only to find a physical therapist who knows what he or she is doing, but also trying to learn more about what are things that might spark something in that child. And of course, sports and music were the two things with Luke,
right.
and I'll never forget those moments. That was just a beautiful thing. Where are you working now? And tell me what your long-term plans are with physical therapy.
I currently work in Fort Worth at Third Gear Pediatric Therapy. I work with Chris Kotwitz, who was also at NRC at the time. I only work 2 days a week right now because of having my two littles. But it's a blessing and I love it. I love being able to get back in the clinic and use my knowledge and help all of these other little kiddos who I consider my own kiddos. I will refer to them as my kiddos all the time.
Mm.
Um, and my long-term goals right now, I'm not sure. I'm enjoying being a mom, but also still staying in the clinic. I think one day I hope to return full time when my kids are in school, and it'll still be pediatric. We have also contracted with a school in Fort Worth, so we do some school therapy, which has been really fun to do. So that would also be of interest, but currently I plan on staying at an outpatient facility doing peds.
Well, tell me about your beautiful little kids.
Oh, they are great. They're wild. I have a 3-year-old Noah and a 2-year-old Zane. Well, almost three and almost two. They're currently in the phase of wanting to do jujitsu and wrestling. So they're always taking each other down, but they are such a blessing and so fun to watch. They're so smart. It's amazing. I've been in peds and got to witness, multiple kiddos grow up and do different things, and it's different, having your own and being able to witness those things as well.
Well, I remember those days when I would always wondering, are you going to get married? And then are you going to have children? And here you are, married to a wonderful guy, a fireman in Fort Worth, and just, I can only imagine what an amazing mom you are because of what I saw firsthand for a couple of years. And I just want you to know that whenever anyone asks me who was your favorite therapist,
Oh
it's
my gosh,
very
you can't say these things, Tim.
I, you know what? It's too late because I have, and I will always do that. So, Yaz, thank you so much for what you've done with Luke and what you're doing with so many children. And most importantly, you're an amazing person. And thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Take care.
You too.